Moscow. And why? Because many people who had been living in the former Soviet Union, they are alive now. And to many of them, Lenin is still dear. And that's why to disappoint so many people in Russia, I think it would be not very well. Before 1960, the name of the square was much better. It was called the Square of Defense. And that was a really good name.
The Square of what?
Of Defense. The Square of Defense, because the Pavlov house is situated here. But again, by the way, from here, they always, the first thing they do, they take pictures of the statue of Lenin. And I always ask them, why do you do so? Why is it interesting to you so? And they say, oh, you may destroy it, and we'll have a picture of it. And I always tell them, we are not going to destroy it yet. We are not going to destroy it. Pavlov house, the four-storied building is yellow behind the trees, and I'm always asked, oh, tell us please, and what is there in that building? And you see, when in 1946 it was rebuilt, and the people had their apartments in that building, and some of the families still live here. And why not? It's the center of the city, the Volga is quite near, close to it, and that's why it's a very good place to live in. And it's a block of apartments now, this Pavlov house. And this is the wall of red brick. The sculptors and the architects who had been working here, they decided to have such a wall. It's not smooth, you see, as if it had been damaged by shells, by bullet, by everything else. And on top of it, you can see the face of the soldier. And to the right there is the inscription 58 days in fire. And also we can see the soldiers who are fighting against the enemy, and on and also in the lower part you can see the names of all those who had defended the house during the Battle of Stalingrad. During the Battle of Stalingrad, the fascists came from the west, and their task was to reach the Volga and to say to Hitler that Stalingrad had been conquered. And the reinforcements, they came from the left bank of the Volga to Stalingrad. And one of the regiments came from the left bank of the Volga here, and the commander wanted to know who had been in that very building. And everything looked like this. We are standing here. There was such a small building, and we are standing here. This is the Pavlov house. On this very wall, there is such a wall of red brick now, and we can see it in front of us. And so the commander wanted to know who had been in that building, and Sergeant Pavlov with 3 other soldiers was sent to find out who had been in that building. Pavlov came to the building, and he found out that there were no fascists in it. The fascists were in those buildings.
When was this picture taken?
During the war. Yes, during the war. A nice picture. And so there were in the basement women, children. One girl was so small, it was a newly born child. She had been born in Stalingrad, and now she's a grandmother already. She's still alive. But as a baby, she had been in the house that we call Pavlov house, and Pavlov decides to stand to the death and to defend the house. But how could he do this? He had only 3 soldiers, and all the rest of the houses were in the hands of Hitler soldiers and officers. He sent one of his soldiers to the Volga for help, and the platoon under Lieutenant Afanasyev came to this house, and there were 24 of them, but they were of 8 different nationalities. They were Russians, they were Ukrainians, there was a Tatar, a Uzbek, a Jew, a Tajik, a Georgian, and the people of 8 different nationalities defended the famous Pavlov house. And when the battle came to an end, Pavlov looked like this. He was 27 years old, Pavlov, and the house looked like this. It had been damaged badly, and after the war, Pavlov lived in Veliki Novgorod, and he came to Volgograd when we celebrated the anniversary of the victory in the Great Patriotic War on the 9th of May. Unfortunately, Pavlov died about 15 years ago. Now, one of the defenders of the house is still alive. He's an Uzbek. His surname is Turguno, and he came to celebrate the 60th anniversary of our victory in the Great Patriotic War in 2005, and we are still waiting for him to come to celebrate the 60th anniversary in 2010. And we hope that he will come from the sunny Uzbekistan to the sunny Volgograd to celebrate. But unfortunately, of course, there are not very many participants of the Second World War alive. Not very many of them, unfortunately. But still, some of them are very active for their age. They travel, yes, and by the way, their pensions by our standards are rather high. The pensions of the participants of the Second World War. And now Mamayev Kurgan is waiting for us. It's the main place of interest in Volgograd.
Okay.
It's really great, fabulous. And I know you asked me the attitude of the citizens to the renaming of the city, yes? There are still some people, veterans, for example, who want our city to be called Stalingrad. There are some people. When I'm asked, Russian tourists, they always ask me, when will you rename the city? When will you rename? I say, I hope we won't rename the city. They say, why? And I always say to them, you see, some people can have something against tsars, tsaritsas, yes, kings and queens. Some people can, our city was Tsaritsyn, some people can have something against Stalin, of course, yes, but people, if he's sane, he can't have anything against the Volga, yes, it's a neutral name, Volgograd. And I say, let it be called Volgograd, a neutral name. But sometimes they say, why don't you rename? As if it depends upon me. Why don't you rename? I'm not to decide how to call this city. It's not upon me to decide, no.